the lake of self-reference. It is a metaphor, not a story you read. It is a place you feel inside yourself. Imagine a perfect, still lake at dawn. No wind, no ripples, no reflection, pure silence. That is reality, unmeasured, unclaimed. Then a single drop falls, a thought, a memory, a sensation, and immediately the lake stirs. A ripple appears. That ripple is self reference. The lake itself is calm, bold, present. The ripple seems to move on its own, but it is entirely dependent on the lake. From that ripple, a ghost arises, the self, a small imagined I that believes it exists, believes it must measure, defend, perform. The lake doesn't resist, it doesn't judge, but the ripple, fed by attention, habit, and thought, spreads endlessly. Hierarchies appear, comparisons appear, tension appears, ego arises, suffering follows. See the illusion. The ripple is not separate from the lake, yet we cling to the ripple as if it were solid. We treat it as me, we measure ourselves, defend it, worry about it, suffer for it, and all the while the lake, the true presence, remains untouched beneath. So, self reference arises from nothing. Self reference is not created deliberately. It does not come from effort. It arises automatically the moment the mind starts assuming a self. There is no fixed self, there is only sensation, thought, and perception moving. The mind takes a tiny fragment of this flow, a memory, a feeling, a thought, and labels it, I am this. From this tiny label, the mind immediately begins referencing. How does this affect me? Who am I? Where do I stand? Notice, it arises from nothing solid. From a story the mind tells itself. There is no real I behind it. Yet, the mind treats it as if it is absolute. How self-reference grows. Once the mind starts referencing itself, a loop forms. Observation. I feel anger, I feel fear, I feel desire. Interpretation. Why am I like this? This is mine, I must protect myself. Comparison. Am I stronger, smarter, better, worse? Positioning. I am above this person, below that person, behind, ahead. Every thought becomes a measurement against the imagined self. The I expands, not as a real entity, but as an internal scoreboard that constantly evaluates everything. How self-reference creates suffering. Suffering is not caused by the world. It arises from the internal loop. Self-reference positions itself, ego arises, comparison, craving, fear, tension, attachment, and then suffering. Examples. You feel insulted, mind says, this threatens me, my identity, my position. In reality, ego reacts, anger, anxiety, stress. You desire something, mind says, I need this to feel complete. But in reality, ego fuels craving, tension, frustration, dissatisfaction. You remember the past, mind says, I was weak, I was hurt. In reality, ego reacts, regret, self-blame, and then suffering. Notice, in all cases, the external event is neutral. All suffering is the internal echo of self-reference, looping endlessly, seeing the illusion. The illusion is simple but subtle. There is no fixed I. The self is a story. Self-reference is the mind creating a measuring point where none exists. Ego, suffering, comparison, all are consequences of a ghost observer. The moment you see clearly, there is no I here to measure. The self is only a reference, a habit of thought. The machinery begins to collapse naturally. You do not need to fight it. You do not need to control it. The loop reveals itself as empty. The practical glimpse. Observe your mind for a moment. Notice how almost every thought asks, what about me? How does this affect me? Notice that the I doing the observing is itself made of reference. In the seeing itself, the self-reference is exposed. The illusion of I begins to dissolve. From nothing, it begins. A thought flickers, a whisper of sensation, a tremor of memory, a shadow of feeling. Nothing solid, nothing permanent. Yet the mind, restless, reaches and names it, I am this. And with that tiny naming, a seed is planted. The seed is invisible, weightless, but alive. The seed of self-reference. From the seed grows a ghost, the self. Not real, not bold, not fixed. A wisp, a story, a shape made of thought. It whispers, protect me, measure me, compare me, advance me, defend me. Every moment it positions itself, above, below, ahead, behind. Everywhere it stakes a claim. It checks the scoreboard. It counts. It fears. It hopes. The world touches it. It trembles. A glance, a word, a silence. Immediately it reacts. This is mine. This threatens me. This elevates me. This diminishes me. From this self reference springs ego, like smoke from fire. Ego performs endlessly, justifying, defending, claiming, craving. And wherever ego moves, suffering follows. Anger, regret, fear, desire, anxiety, all shadows cast by the tiny flame of self reference. Yet the origin is nothing. A ghost observing a ghost, looping endlessly, creating the illusion of a solid self where there was none. The tragedy is subtle. You carry this phantom everywhere. You feed it with thought, attention, hope, fear. It grows, but it is never real. And every moment it grows, you suffer, unknowingly, because you believe it is real. But the miracle is simple. See it. Not as an idea, not as a lesson, but see. The self is only reference. The observer is only a pattern of thought. The loop is exposed. And in that saying, ego loses its fuel. Suffering dissolves. And the world, your body, your mind, everything rests naturally, effortlessly, in silence. Once there was a blank lake at dawn. No ripples, no wind, no reflection, just silence, pure and still. From nowhere, a single drop fell. It was tiny, almost invisible, but the moment it touched the lake, a circle formed, a ripple that kept moving outward, touching everything. The mind is like that lake, and that first drop is the first flicker of self reference. It seems small, innocent, nothing to worry about. I feel this, I think this, I am this. But as soon as that drop lands, the lake is no longer empty. Every ripple starts reflecting itself. One ripple says, am I bigger than the last? Another ripple says, I must guard my place, lest I disappear. And soon a ghost appears on the surface, a self that never existed, made entirely of reflections, positions, and imagined boundaries. The ghost walks everywhere with you. It measures, compares, judges. It positions itself above, below, ahead, behind. Every glance, every word, every shadow of a thought feeds it. And wherever it goes, suffering grows. Anger, fear, craving, regret. These are the waves that follow the first ripple. You see, the lake is still there underneath. The water is still pure. But the ripples, the self, the ego, keep moving, looping endlessly, giving the illusion of storm, of danger, of someone in charge. And you suffer. Not because the world is harsh, but because you believe the ghost on the water is real. The secret is simple. Watch the lake, not the ripples. See how the first drop made everything move. See how the ghost formed. See how the wave rise and fall. When you see that the self is only a reflection of a ripple, the ripples no longer need attention. The lake rests, calm, infinite, present. The ghost fades, not by force, not by effort, but by seeing it clearly for what it is. The lake remains, silence remains, presence remains, and suffering dissolves. The lake of self reference is the mind's hidden stage. At first, reality is like a still, silent lake, unchanging, present, untouched. Then a single drop falls, a thought, a memory, a feeling. That drop is self reference, and immediately ripples arise. From these ripples, the illusion of a self forms, a ghost that believes it exists, measures itself, defends itself, and performs endlessly. Positioning emerges, ego arises, and suffering follows naturally. Yet the lake itself remains the world beneath the ripples. When self reference is seen clearly for what it is, the observer vanishes, ego loses its fuel, and suffering dissolves. Presence remains effortless, simple, and free, silent, still, and unbound.